Hey, what's up, everyone? It's your old pal, the KMN 1971, back with another edition of my comic book collection spotlight series. This time around, part 3 of What's in the Spec Box: The Good, the Bad, and the Funny. Emphasis especially on the funny this episode. So, this episode will entail once trendy indie books, a lot of DC misses, a little Star Wars, a little Marvel mashup madness, and of course, I'm going to end it off with some cheap first appearances, like as I usually tend to do with these videos. So, kicking it off, we're going to start off with a pretty iconic moment in comic book history: the death, spoilers, years later, of Rick Grimes. So, The Walking Dead. Now, for context, let's rewind it all the way back to the early 1980s when I first discovered my first LCS. And TMNT was all the rage. That was the indie book that really sparked, the whole indie movement back in the early 1980s, as well as indie speculation and a bunch of knockoffs. So ever since then, there's always been that quote-unquote trendy indie book, and unlike TMNT, most of them don't stand the test of time. So you can track the lineage from TMNT number 1 to The Walking Dead number 1, which became a phenomenon, and I guess the latest one would probably be Saga number 1, right? So everyone's looking for that next big indie key. So as far as the granddaddy of modern indie keys, The Walking Dead would definitely be that. I unfortunately don't have any of the earlier issues. I only have a scattering of issues, but I did come around for this one because I did want to turn up for the death of Rick Grimes, who is, an iconic comic book character. So here's part 1 and part 2. And this will be a case where I bought 2 copies of each, one for the PC and one to, potentially sell down the road. Keeping on with the trend of once trendy indie books, we have Scarlet, first appearance of Scarlet by Bendis and Mayleaf. Irredeemable number 1 by Mark Waid and Peter Krause, where I think it was sometime last year Mark Waid said to be on the lookout for this property, something big was going to happen, but who knows, a lot of these creators, they probably get word of their property being optioned, and then they're left in limbo just like we are. So you can't have Irredeemable without Incorruptible, number 1. Sheltered, number 1. And of course, Mark Millar. Oh, wow. I mean, the speculation has come a long way from the days of Kick-Ass and Wanted to nowadays. And it just seems like anything that goes off to Netflix goes off to die. They just can't seem to get a popular comic book property. They had it for The Witcher for one season, but everything else just seems to, whether it be Jupiter's Legacy, Super Crooks, whatever, and it's too bad because there's still a lot of meat on that bone. I was a really big fan of the Magic Order and Reborn, and I think they would translate well onto the big or small screen. But anywho, here we have Super Crooks number 1, Huck number 1, Superior number 1, keeping on with some more indie goodness, The Realm, which was once touted to be like maybe possibly the next Saga at one time. Started off strong, but they lost me once we went to the dungeon crawling part, and the art kind of fluctuated also, and the story just started to drag. I don't even know if this story is still going or not. Uber, number 1. Remember this? B.P.R.D, The Hollow Earth, number 1. Now, this is cool, actually. I guess they're going to be trying to revamp Hellboy yet again. So, with Hellboy, the B.P.R.D can't be far behind. So, this is the first time they had their own solo comic. And like a lot of these, a lot of these will just end up getting filed into my collection. So, as a big Hellboy fan, that's definitely a keeper. Here we have a nice cover homage, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Adventures number 9. And this, of course, is an homage to the Raphael number 1 one-shot. All right, and that will probably clear it out for all the indie books. Now for some DC misses. So, DC books, as of lately, the back issue market has been kind of on fire as of lately, thanks to James Gunn and the new DCU upcoming. So, But unfortunately, none of these books will have anything to do with that. So, if anything, here, Justice League Dark, this is the issue where John Constantine officially joins the Justice League Dark. And obviously, this is another one of those projects that's been torpedoed. So I wasn't really crazy about quote unquote Justice League Dark movie. I like this concept, but I would like them to frame it in like maybe like create the team bring back the team the Shadow Pact, which was more occult and dealing with the dark corners and mystical corners of the DC universe. So why water down the Justice League brand when you can create something new? So anywho, I would be on the lookout for this too. The concept of John Constantine joining with some mainstream DC supernatural heroes is a concept that I don't see that they'll lay on keep on the shelf for all that long. Hopefully not. Anyway, who knows? I don't know anything. So DC Future State #1. Enough said about this, but I just picked this up because people like their preview appearances. Future State Wonder Woman #1. Love the Jenny Frison cover, at least. And this character is not that bad either. Did anyone ever find out if this is her first appearance, or was it that cameo in that Wonder Woman 4 annual? I'm not even sure. The Sportsmaster. Manhunter #17. Back when people were speculating who would be, who Idris Elba would be portraying in the upcoming The Suicide Squad movie by James Gunn. As we all know, it turned out to be Bloodsport, and definitely not the Sportsmaster. Thank God. Also, Blue Beetle #3, another big miss. This is the appearance of the second Peacemaker, which most likely no one will ever hear from again. Speaking of which, New Superman DC Universe Rebirth. The first appearance of, I don't even know who this dude was called. This was pretty bad. Keeping on with the bad tradition. First appearance of the Immortal Men. I'm sorry, you throw Jim Lee on art and I will at least check it out for the first couple of issues. And even this wasn't enough to keep me on. Then again, they were only on, like, the artists were only on these books for like maybe the first 2 issues tops, and another one of the main reasons why it failed. So here's Immortal Men #1, the Terrifics #1, the Silencer #1. Oof. Kind of a cool character, but once again, didn't really have a chance. It was dead right out of the gate, in my opinion. Also wanted to try out the new Black Label when it first came out, aside from the Batman stuff, so I tried out the Last God #1, seeing I love my sword and fantasy stuff, as well as Basket Full of Heads from Joe Hill. And while both were not that bad, they weren't enough to entice me to, like, really jump on board, you know what I mean? So maybe someday down the line. Probably not. And lastly, Pearl. Kind of like Irredeemable. Bendis said probably over a year ago there's going to be some big announcements coming out about this character, and nothing ever ended up happening with that. So wait and see, maybe forever, or maybe not. Who knows? So let's move a couple of these out of the way. And a lot of with those misses, too, it's like, it's another form of speculation. I mean, one of the greatest things about this hobby is trying out something new, liking it, and having something new to collect and enjoy, right? It helps to keep the hobby fresh. So, unfortunately, you got to try out a lot of things that really aren't up to your standards. So, moving on. Love me some Star Wars, but usually when I buy anything that's from the Dr. Aphra title, it usually has to do with either A, it's a crossover, or B, a cover grab, or C, a first appearance of a new potential character. So here's Dr. Aphra #7, and this is the first appearance of Wen Delphus. Whatever. Dr. Aphra #19, a book that's kind of picked up a little bit, I guess, thanks to the 3rd season of The Mandalorian, which I'm definitely enjoying. No surprise there. This is the first cover appearance, I believe, of Bo-Katan. So, really cool. I guess nowadays, first cover appearances are a thing. So, I also have the first cover appearance of the Bad Batch buried somewhere also in my Darth Vader collection. So, that wouldn't be in my spec box, you know? And Dr. Aphra #21, the first cover appearance of Fennec Shand. So, as a Star Wars geek, had to pick those up. There'll be more Star Wars spec books in the next video, believe me. All right, how about some Marvel stuff? Can't have some speculation without the great MCU involved. So, Marvel Fanfare, number 12, first cover appearance of the Iron Maiden. Remember when this was a thing? Now, this is one of those deals that the spec is gone from this, but I love Marvel Fanfare. This will just go into the Marvel Fanfare collection, and having it illustrated by the late great George Perez definitely doesn't hurt it, in my eyes anyway. Moon Knight number 4, another character that first appearance of a character that never appeared in the Moon Knight show. Spider-Girl number 0. Sometimes reprints are actually cool when they're not trying to be pushed as like a rare variant or a substitute as a first appearance. But Spider-Girl number 0, this reprints her first appearance from I forgot what issue of What If it's from, but it's a nice alternative if you don't want to buy that book because it's pretty pricey, and even this book has kind of garnered a little bit of heat. Who knows if she appears in Enter the Spider-Verse, the second one, the upcoming sequel. Who knows? This book could blow up. And just having a Spidey spin-off character never hurts. Speaking of Marvel mashups, here we have Infinity War number 3, which is a cameo appearance of all these like Marvel mashups that really haven't been used again since then. This is pretty much writing the tales of the height of the Marvel mashup gimmick fest that was going on. I don't know, maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, where you had Cosmic Ghost Rider, you had Weapon H, you had Gwenpool and Spider-Gwen and God knows what else, and all the other different Spider variants. But this was the point where they really, jumped the shark, I guess, and they kind of let off on it since. So, funny. I was already buying this miniseries at the time because it was spun off of a volume of Guardians of the Galaxy. But this was a rough one. Exiles number 86. Speaking of Weapon H, this features a prototype cameo appearance of Weapon H, I guess. Another reason that I will keep this book forever, though, is being a huge Wolverine fan. I really love all the different Wolverine variants that are on that cover. I think that's awesome. Ah, yes, the Cosmic Ghost Rider, but not the one that was created by Donny Cates. This predates that one by like 20 years or so. So, first appearance of the first Cosmic Ghost Rider in Guardians of the Galaxy, number 13. Another book that kind of popped a little bit back when the Cosmic Ghost Rider Donny Cates craze was going on. All right. And lastly, we're going to end this off with some cheap first appearances. So here we have Marvel Age number 2, which is a preview appearance of Puck from Alpha Flight fame. Speaking of Alpha Flight, we have Alpha Flight number 5, the first appearance of the character that would go on to become the Talisman. So, I forget, there was one of the major influencers on YouTube was pushing these books at one time, and I can't really remember why, but anything that's John Byrne from the 1980s, it definitely has a permanent home in my collection. Secret Wars number 5, first appearance of Boom Boom from New Mutants and X-Force fame. So, back in the day, the first characters that would really, like the comic book community would really speculate about, learn how to talk, please, would be mutants. People love their mutants. Who's going to be the next Cable? Who's going to be the next Deadpool? Who's going to be the next Wolverine, right? Who's going to be the next Gambit? So mutants were super hot in the 80s and 90s, so people would even go back to try to get stuff like this. So this book has never been worth anything. Secret Wars 2 is a trash comic, always has been, always will be, unfortunately, one of the worst sequel events ever. Here we have Geekosity's favorite spec book, Dakota North Investigations, number 1. First appearance of Dakota North. Pretty cool character as a side character, but what a joke. Moving on. Speaking of jokes, Atlas Comics, Demon Hunter. Now, several years ago, there was a major, well, not a major studio, but a studio that bought all the characters of all the Atlas comics. So I ended up finding a bunch of them, as you tend to do with Atlas Comics on the cheap. And then I'm like, why do I have these? So I ended up selling them all anyway. But I ended up keeping this comic, which is the first appearance of Demon Hunter, which is a prototype to, I believe, Demon Slayer, who would end up becoming a Marvel character in the 1970s, as well as the first appearance of the Scorpion by Howard Chaykin, who would be a prototype for the character Dominic Fortune over at Marvel Comics. So I dig comic book history like that and cheap first appearances. Why the heck not? Even if they're prototype first appearances. And lastly, we are going to end it off with Rima the Jungle Girl, #1. Technically not her first appearance. So Rima is a character that came, she first appeared in a novel called The Green Mansions way back in the day, which was kind of like an answer to the popularity of Tarzan. And she was this white goddess that had a control of animals and jungle wildlife in the jungle. And she actually appeared in the movies in the 1950s by and played by Audrey Hepburn, kind of a big name. So anywho, she kind of disappeared for a while, and then DC Comics ended up bringing her back in the 1970s, but more as an action hero. And she actually even appeared in 3 episodes of the Super Friends. Technically, this isn't her first appearance. The Green Mansions novel was actually, I want to say it was covered by Dell Comics in Classics Illustrated, number 59, or maybe it was Gold Key. I'm not sure, I'm sorry. But this comic actually goes more than that comic, which neither go for much, to be honest. So there you go. Rima the Jungle Girl, #1 from DC Comics, appeared in the Super Friends, so that makes her official. Credit to fellow YouTuber Tom Fremgen. I hope I pronounced your name. Great YouTube channel, and he had a lot of insight on one of his videos about this character. So shout out to him. So that's all I have for this month. I will be back next month with probably a comic book haul, and then eventually part 4 or 4 of what's in the spec box. And expect a little bit of everything. I'm talking Star Wars, Marvel, DC, Vertigo, whatever. You know, it's all on there. So thank you all for watching, liking, and subscribing, and I will see you all later. Take care.